was on board. So now I think we're caught up. We're on the same page on both of them. Today's forms of energy distortions are going to be, again, things from my own healings, things that I have had, things I've discovered from my own healings that have advanced my knowledge of what energy distortions look like. When energy is not flowing smoothly, these are some of the things that are happening. The first one that I wanted to cover is one that I call piercing wires, and it literally feels like barbed wire. I don't know if you've ever touched a piece of barbed wire. It's sharp, it's pointed. You press into it, you'll pierce any part of your body that is close to it. And effectively, this is the same exact thing that the energy distortion will feel like. People have this when they are in an extremely angry position and they've stuffed that anger down into their body until they can almost no longer function. And that's when, and yet when they go to a doctor, they can't find anything wrong with them. This is why they end up with an energy healer. The next one is red or gray clouds, black, red, or gray clouds or masses of energy. As you look at the energy in the body, or as you feel it, because some of you won't be able to see it, but you'll be able to feel it. You feel uh, kind of a pressure, and that pressure as you feel it on your hands, whether it's the top of your palms or the bottom, there's a fullness to it, there's a solidarity, and in your mind's eye, you will see the colors. A lot of times it's gray. I associate gray with worry thoughts. Red and I associate with anger. Black, I associate with hopelessness. When the client is absolutely feels nothing can be done about this situation, nothing is going to change. So that hopelessness has a component in this. The types of anger that you might have. You might have a client coming to you with very quiet anger, seething underneath the surface, but it's always there. And you feel it because you can feel the tension in their words. You can sometimes have their words, uh, as they talk to you, their words feel shaky. And that anger is really, really sad because a lot of times the person feels that they are coping with their anger, but all they're doing is stuffing it back in. Another one is subversive or sneaky anger, where they think they're being very clever. They tell you one thing, but you know it's another thing. You absolutely know it. And yet they won't agree to the fact that what they're all about is anger. I have probably had 40 years experience with that. Somewhere, fortunately, not with a personal husband, but with an extended family member. And they absolutely did feel that, oh, they were being very clever, very coy. but under no circumstance was that anger anything except what were those feelings anything except what it was, which was subversive and sneaky anger. Obviously, the easiest anger to identify is explosive anger, where the person just blows up and there's a volcanic reaction. I would say probably most people can identify with that because of the fact that that's the type of anger that they're subjected to. And then they react with explosive anger. The problem with explosive anger is one person usually has the upper hand, the other person is sent cowering into a corner, even if it's a corner in their own mind, because they have been taught not to take on any single person with that is in a state of explosive anger. Children of alcoholic parents are masters at this. They are taught to read the signs, read the emotional mood of their parent, caregiver, whoever it is that they're dealing with, and do everything in their power not to arouse that kind of anger. They end up being people pleasers. They end up being people that totally subvert their own feelings to keep the peace and not allow another person to go into explosive anger. Explosive anger is very damaging. Most of the time, if when I've been subjected to it, it literally feels, even though there wasn't a physical reaction, a physical punch, it feels like somebody has punched me in the gut. It affects your third chakra. What's your third chakra? Your source of mental ability, your source of personal I am, of your right to be on this planet, your right to express yourself exactly the way you are. Personal, when you have explosive anger, um, basically what happens, it alters your personality. You become a different person. You tend to feel a rage build up inside of you that very quickly rearranges the way that you react. And this is, again, always trying to keep the peace, always trying to calm the other person down. In my experience, the best way to deal with explosive anger is to explode yourself. And maybe this isn't the world's best technique, but it's a technique that has worked for me. And I have found that with explosive anger, and there's so many in the marketplace right now that are using it to in order to make people cower under them, to make people feel afraid of them. They use explosive anger. I have found that if you can react back with just words, no physical, just words, you can put a stop to explosive anger very quickly, because the last thing the person expects back from you is for you to explode. That's not a reaction that they expect. So consider doing that. I'm going to presume if you're watching this, you really need some of these techniques that are on board. The next energy distortion that I'm going to talk about has to do with lying And what happens when you listen to a person lie? The energy field of the person who is lying reverses. If you're right-handed, your energy field flows in a clockwise direction. If you're left-handed, your energy field flows in a counterclockwise direction. It reverses, and you, as the listener, can feel that reversal. Again, these are subtle energies, so you have to be tuned to them, but you can absolutely pick up the distortion of a person who is lying to you, even if they are vehemently protesting that it's the truth, especially if they're vehemently protesting, and especially if they're pointing their finger at another person to or another group of people to use as a scapegoat. Dead giveaway. In my personal experience, I would rather believe a 4-year-old who is telling me about the fact that she was touched inappropriately rather than a 40-year-old who is vehemently protesting, denying it. 20, 30, 40, teenager, whatever. If it's inappropriate, the person, even a very young person, even like a baby, knows they're being violated. So, reversal of energy fields, look for it. Look for it in public figures that are talking to you. Look for it in members of your peer group, your friends, your family, your significant other. And this is why most people feel suspicious when they sense that their person that is the closest to them is not telling them the truth. When they sense that, for example, somebody is having an affair, that lying is the reason, and the reversal of the subtle bodies is why you sense that. The next one, manipulation. Now, this is interesting. I once had a person give me a compliment, and I realized very quickly that the reason that they were complimenting me was because they were trying to manipulate me into giving them money. And I felt it. And how I felt it? Like I was being circled with a rope, circled with a lasso. It's really intriguing how you can feel these energy distortions as very viable, complete, realistic feelings. So know that if somebody is complimenting you and there's an ulterior motive for that compliment, you will feel it. You absolutely will feel it. This happened when I was working on a schizophrenic, a person who had schizophrenic tendencies. As energy was releasing from him, as we kept putting in clear, bright energy, and so one hand was acting as an electric um, hand to put in clear, bright energy, and the other hand was acting as a magnetic hand to receive what was being released. What I felt was squigglies. And in that case, the only way I could describe it was a three-headed snake. And the irony is, when I looked at a book of energy distortions that was published by Alex Gray, a book called Sacred Mirrors, where he went into energy deprivation, that very picture appears, a three-headed snake. So, and I felt it, go in and come out. So effectively, but this was like I said, the person had schizophrenic tendencies. The next thing, and these are three I lumped together: tears, funnel, and drains. Tears are literally a tear in the fabric of your energy field. It doesn't line up properly. It's something has happened to make you feel insecure about what it is that you're dealing with. And so the fabric of your energy field, your etheric fabric, has actually torn and has not bounded together properly. Didn't go like this, may have gone like this, may have gone like this. Something happened, may have bunched up. So tears are easy to identify. Funnels and drains are something else, totally different. When I saw and I gave a person the fact that when I saw a funnel and in one case and a drain on another part of her body, she was absolutely ecstatic because of the fact that she felt she had been under personal attack, and the attacks were not anything that she could prevent. But what she was so grateful for was to see that the attack was in such a minute portion of her body, was such a was the drain appeared almost like a straw where you suction out the energy, and the funnel appeared like half of a straw where the top half was cut off. It was slanted and the energy was flowing out of her. So all the work that she was doing to help herself was working. And so funnels, sometimes a funnel can appear just like a large round thing with then the small opening at the bottom, and the large part is attached to the body and the small part is leaving the body. So just like you would pour a funnel through water through a funnel, it appears the same exact way. Um, Drains can also appear just like the drain in your sink, the drain in your faucet, the drain in your toilet, where the water just swirls around and is leaving you. And um, these are really signs that make you feel so much better because of the fact that they're very, very, uh, usually the energy is very harsh. And so we've got to, um, you, you welcome any release of that energy. The next one is cords. Cords of attachment. If you've been in a relationship where you have a cord that you continue to feed because you continue to want to be tied to that person. You want that person back in your life, and that person is trying to extricate himself. Basically, you're giving away your energy through that cord to the other person. And that is, again, what are you doing? You're losing your own energy. So you have to find a way to cut that cord and remove that from you. I know when I've had to work on this myself, where I've had cords of attachment to people I no longer wanted in my life, I saw a implement like scissors, but the sharpest scissors I could imagine, and as big as the sky, then come towards my solar plexus where the cord was attached. And sometimes the cord is thin, but sometimes it's big. So you have to also be able to kind of visualize and feel and see what how big that cord is through your mind's eye. You can see anything. You can go and you can tap into exactly what is happening to you. Um, I saw that and I cut that cord and I saw the convex just come into my body so that it wouldn't attach again. And I saw the cord ravel and go in. I use like three basic images. I use throwing it overboard a ship and see this big ocean liner moving away very quickly. I see it being wrapped up in a snowball and coming down an avalanche and just dissipating that way, or see it in a bonfire. And when it's in a bonfire, the purple transformational flame. I always put it in the neon purple bonfire. Psychic hooks are this similar to cords. They're big, fat hooks, and those hooks drain you. And those hooks are put into you by other people who literally are trying to siphon off your energy. They do not know how to manage their own energy, so they try to siphon it off from anybody they can. Psychic hooks can also be put into you, and where you might feel you're powerless to drain them, you are not. You never, ever, ever have a loss of power unless you choose to lose that power. So you really do have to start thinking of yourself as a more invincible being than you are. The last thing I wanted to cover was big gaps and holes. Again, in doing healing, there, if you, especially if you're working in the brain area, if you're working with the crown, if you see a gap or a hole, just know that you have to be very, very careful about telling the person that you're working on, because they can become super frightened about having this as a possibly signifying it as a brain tumor. I know the first time I identified that to another person, it was one of our fellow ministers, and after I mentioned that I saw this in her brain, she never heard another word, because all she kept thinking of is, I'm going to die of a brain tumor, just like my husband died. And as it turned out, she didn't die of a brain tumor. She died of congestive heart failure, but it took her 20 years or 25 years before she passed. So, but she immediately went into panic mode. So you have to be very, very careful if you see a hole or a gap. And the best thing to do that I have found is just tell them, have you had a checkup recently? And have the doctor scan whatever it is, wherever that showed up for you. Have the doctor scan that. Anyway, I do thank you for watching. I am at about 27 minutes. I try to keep this to 15. I've run over again. My Own Your Power Day by Day, a book on meditation, guided by spirit. Every word was guided by spirit, and makes great Christmas presents. And you can get it on Amazon.com. You can get it on my website, aliciajones.com. So please, and if you send me a request to send it to you, I will give you an autographed copy. Please do, and shipping and handling is free, but please do know that only you can give somebody else the power to hurt you. Only you. So, this is part of why I do these series. I want you to understand how powerful you are, how you are able to eradicate things that are not good for you, are not useful to you, do not enhance you anymore. So I really am very, very pleased that you all came here. I thank you, and I will see you next week at 1 o'clock.